Let's talk. Is there? Let's talk for a moment. And you know what, here, guys, I'm not going to use any graphics because I don't want to risk anything about something being spoilery. This is what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about last night's episode of Mandalorian in a non-spoiler way. But then we are going to spend a few minutes talking in some spoiler stuff. And when we do, I'm going to let you guys know we're about to talk spoilers, and I will bring up this alert so you guys know we're talking spoilers, and then you'll know to keep it on mute until the image goes away. And by the way, later today, myself and my wife, of course, Ann Campea, will be doing our weekly Mandalorian spoiler discussion at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time this afternoon. So if you're interested in hearing like a full hour and a half to 2 hours of just full spoiler discussion about last night, come on back and join me and Ann at 4 p.m. All right, let's get into this. Rob, starting off with all non-spoiler stuff.
Right.
And it's very difficult to talk in non-spoiler terms about this episode, except as I will say this. They did everything I said in previous shows that I said I think they should do for this final episode. They did it to an absolute T, which totally made me very excited. They did the whole thing of I've been saying forever, you can't just have this thing end on just a cliffhanger. You can't do that. What you need to do, and I hope they do, is what Supernatural does. Bring the story to conclusion and then open a door that says, here's where it can go from here. And without getting into details yet about how they did that, they did it. And they did it so well. And the whole tease they did about Baby Yoda sending off his AT&T Warner Brothers signal out into the galaxy looking for another Jedi, they brought that to fruition. I said that's something they can't just leave dangling, so they brought that to fruition in a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous way. They did a lot of stuff that we were hoping they would do. They did one or two things I didn't think they would do, unexpected, but in a fantastic, wonderful way. They brought the whole season full circle, and it was my big complaint. This is a good complaint to have, but my biggest complaint about the episode was its length. When I opened up the episode and I think it was 46 minutes, and I saw 46 minutes, I'm like, I was really kind of hoping to see like a good 55, 65 minute finale, but whatever. It was a glorious, fun, wonderful conclusion to the season of a 46-minute runtime. And we'll go into some spoilers here in a couple of minutes here to get really into the meat of it. But Rob, on a general non-spoilery kind of way, how were you feeling watching that Mandalorian finale last night?
Well, like I was just saying, it made me feel like I was 10 years old with all of my Star Wars figures laid out in front of me, deciding what would be the coolest thing I'd want to see right now. No, I thought, for one, I think the latter half of season 2 of The Mandalorian has been an epic win for both the show, but more importantly for Star Wars as a whole, because you realize that what the Clone Wars did and what Rebels did so well is it showed you that there was a lot of other stories to be told outside of the Skywalker saga. And this is something that we knew even as an original Star Wars fan back in the 70s, when you're reading Marvel Comics or you're reading Han Solo at Star's End or Lando Calrissian and the Flame Winds of Ocean, you realize that there's a lot of other stories in the Star Wars universe that are really worth telling. And this story, without giving anything away, really had nothing to do with the larger Skywalker saga, sort of. And yet, it's incredibly effective in terms of it's obviously a Star Wars story set in the Star Wars universe that expands the lore that has been built up over the 7 seasons of Clone Wars and the 4 seasons of Rebels. And I think it did more for the Star Wars franchise than the entire Disney sequel trilogy, because if you're a longtime Star Wars fan, it's just satisfying. This episode, from like every 3 minutes, they gave me something where I was going, yeah, man, that's rad. It's just stuff I've wanted to see. And they kept giving it to me. Give me. It was like snorting a pile of Tony Montana sized cocaine at the end of Scarface, but it was Star Wars. I had a giant rail of Star Wars that I was just just imbibing, sniffing up into my imagination. And I haven't had, what a way to end this year. I was having so much fun, and I just was like, dude, it's not the deepest stuff in the world. I mean, it's not Breaking Bad. It's not Game of Thrones when Game of Thrones was at its finest. What it was like opening my Star Wars toys on Christmas morning for the first time. That's what it was.
And we'd be remiss. I think we'd be remiss not to point that. I sent out a tweet last night that basically said, Peyton Reed, you glorious son of a bitch. Because look, we know John Favreau, he oversees the story. He's the one who came up with the story of what was going to happen in this episode. And obviously full credit to everything Favreau has done. But then it's up to the individual directors to come in and bring what Favreau wants to see in that episode. And it's the director's responsibility to come in and bring that to life, really flesh it out and manifest it. Peyton Reed, the director of Ant-Man, Ant-Man 2, and the upcoming Ant-Man, Quantumania? Ant-Man Quantumania. Peyton Reed directed that episode last night. And everything from the pacing, the choice of shots, how they slowly built certain elements and then quickly got to others. It was a marvelously written episode. That goes without saying. It was a marvelously directed episode as well. And anyway, your thoughts on the job Peyton Reed did last night?
I thought he did a terrific job. And it's funny because Star Wars has never been, it isn't the English Patient. It's not Lawrence of Arabia. It's populist fantasy, sci-fi entertainment for all ages. And I feel that what happened when Disney bought Star Wars is there was so much pressure to show that there's going to be a great return on investment. And I think with the films, they sort of lost that. They weren't as fun as they should have been. And if nothing else, the second season has proven that Star Wars works best when it embraces its science fiction fantasy element, what it is. And the fact is, it's got to appeal to children of all ages. And I'm one of them. I'm a kid in an adult's body. And I'm watching this, and it made me feel like I was when I saw Star Wars in the theater for the first time when I was 10. I felt like I was 10 years old again. I mean, every time they did something more in this episode, I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's even cool. Oh, my God, it's so cool. Like, it was just, I never thought I would have so much fun watching one spaceship get inside of another one, I guess you could say.
And again, it's not Shakespeare. By the way, a big thank you to JBKB, who sent in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thanks for that, JBKB. Appreciate that, man. But yeah, a spectacular job all around. And you're right. This is not Shakespeare. I mean, let's be clear. It's and even the deeper elements they introduce, they only cover them in a very surface way.
Yeah.
But that's what they are. And they go heavy into the other elements that make it such a rich experience to watch. Okay, guys, listen. This has been to cover all you guys who haven't seen the episode yet. For the next few minutes here, Rob and I are going to talk about some spoiler stuff, okay? So if you have not seen Mandalorian, the season finale of season 2, it is time to hit mute. Hit mute, because we're about to go to spoiler. Now, we will be done spoilers when I bring this graphic off. When I turn this graphic off, the spoilers are done. That's when you know you can unmute it, okay? All right, you've been warned. All right, here we go. We're going to get into the spoiler stuff now. Holy fuck shit, Luke Skywalker showed up and started wrecking some fools and sticking lightsabers up their ass and cutting them in half and shitting all over their faces. It was everything I've wanted to see Luke Skywalker do for decades. And I am convinced that John Favreau, I suspected before, but I am absolutely convinced that John Favreau at least used to watch my AMC movie talk show, because I remember one of the most infamous episodes I ever did that. I talked about the upcoming The Last Jedi movie, and I said, man, all I want to see in this movie is Luke Skywalker with a lightsaber in his hand and wrecking an entire platoon of stormtroopers, just wrecking shop and doing it for 5 minutes. And I will stand and I will defecate myself and I will do all this. And as soon as that X-Wing came into view, It got stiff, Rob. I'm not going to lie to you. It got stiff. I was so excited. And then, of course, listen, and this was the beautiful thing about it, Rob. The decision to we clearly knew that was Luke. The moment that we saw the X-Wing, we all clearly knew it was Luke. And yet Peyton Reed decided to still veil mystery in it for a while, just seeing his back and the cloak and blah, blah, blah. And then they make it again obvious that it's Luke when we see the gloved hand. So we know it's Luke, and yet they still decide to try to keep it a little bit veiled in mystery. Because then we may think, well, I know it's Luke, but what if it's not? They kept that question in your head. And even when the green lightsaber blade came out, you're like, well, it's obviously Luke. But why are they still keeping it veiled in mystery a little bit? So just those little creative decisions to the point that when he finally pulls it off. Now, look, I will say this before everybody else talks about it. Obviously, the CGI on Luke's face was not top notch. Obviously. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Would it have been better for them just to hire another actor and then do their makeup in such a way to make him look more like Luke? That might have ultimately, at the end of the day, that might have served them a little bit better. What's the name of the set again that they're in? Where they shoot it? But they call it, so they have a specific word for it. But anyway, stagecraft won't fix that problem for you. Yeah. And that was distracting. But I just went, okay, I accept it. The face looks a little weird, so I accept that. I can live with that, whatever. But yes, and you know what? They'll fix that. In years to come, they'll probably fix that and put it back on Disney+. And then let's talk for a second about, well, there was another problem I had, Rob. I was telling you this off air. As they were doing it and Mando goes in and he blows the Dark Troopers out the airlock, I remember thinking to myself, well, that's anticlimactic. You spent a bunch of episodes building up these Dark Troopers, and then he just opens an airlock and blows. But of course, they came back and they rectified that problem. It was truly a Terminator Doomsday type of feel. I thought Moff Gideon was great. I love the whole Darksaber. Even when it's on Beskar, if you keep it on Beskar for too long, it starts to get real hot, and you're afraid it could damage it. Baby Yoda was terrific. The whole thing. Okay, and then let's talk for a second about the post-credit scene.
Okay, can we?
Where Boba Fett, Fennec show up. First of all, it was great. I got all excited. It's like, I turned to Anna and I yelled out loud, it's Bib Fortuna! Like, Bib Fortuna's sitting there on Jabba's throne. He gets whacked in Tony Soprano style. He totally gets whacked. He's out, and it ends with, and again, this is not great writing. It's actually kind of cringy and actually kind of cheesy. The final shot ends with Boba Fett sitting on a throne. I'm like, come on, that's kind of cheesy. But then you watch it and it's like, oh my God, that's awesome. Boba Fett's sitting there on the throne and Fennec kind of sitting on the arm of the chair with a bottle of booze in her hand. And coming next Christmas, the Book of Boba Fett. Of course, we reported on this show, Rob, a few weeks ago that they had started production on a Boba Fett spinoff series, an event series they're calling. It's going to be a one-off. Whether that means now, Deadline is still saying Mandalorian Season 3 is happening. Some people are wondering, it's like, wait a minute. Is that replacing Mandalorian now? Apparently, Mandalorian Season 3 is still happening. Maybe it just bumps it, Mandalorian Season 3, for an extra year. Maybe Mandalorian comes out just before this. I don't know, whatever. But hot damn. I thought, I knew Luke was a possibility. I've been talking for a month now that Luke Skywalker is a possibility. He's out there in the galaxy. He's forming the thing. But if I had to put $5 on it, I was ready to put $5 on it being Ezra Bridger. But it was Luke. And wait, Rob, sorry, Rob, I could just run like this for the next 20 minutes. Your thoughts on a spoiler level of what we saw last night.
Dude, it was ultimate fappability. Fap. I have to say that, look, when I saw the end of that, the tag, I was watching it. I was watching on my computer here. And the credits were rolling and there was no artwork, during the credits. And I was listening to the music and I kind of turned away. And then I turned, out of the corner of your eye, you see another image pop on. And I turned like, wait, what? And I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
And you see Jabba's palace.
The Sons of Tatooine, the pans over. And I was like, holy. And then look, maybe it was cheesy at the end, but I'm like, they were going to make a live action Star Wars Underworld series. Remember that? And they wrote like 50 scripts. If Boba Fett has now installed himself as the ultimate crime boss in the galaxy, and the Book of Boba Fett is like, it's some Godfather 2-esque saga where he takes over the underworld, the Star Wars universe. I'm like, this is masturbatory material for years to come. And I mean, I can't imagine what we're going to see with this show. And having Fennec Shan, it's just like, again, I'm watching this going, dude, I've already, all you had to do was show me the Slave One fighting TIE fighters. I'm like, that's all I needed to see. But this episode kept giving me stuff and giving me stuff and giving me stuff. And I just, again, is it high art? No. Does it have a lot of depth to it? No, but Star Wars never, I mean, Empire Strikes Back is as much depth as you get. And I love Empire. I saw it 26 times in the theater. But there's so much interesting stuff in this episode. There's so many directions they can spin off. And in 45 minutes, I have 50 different questions. Where did Luke and Baby Yoda go? What happened to Grogu from the time we just met him last season to the beginning of the Rise of, or the Force Awakens?
And we agree, he's coming back, right? Like, I thought they made that pretty clear with the way he said, I will see you again. We'll see. Like, he's coming back, right? Like, Baby Yoda's coming back.
You know, I was on Twitter last night losing my mind about this, and people are like, they're going, well, the Boba Fett show is going to replace The Mandalorian. And I'm like, are you people out of your minds? Do you not know how this works? I mean, look at Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, and Chicago Law,
Med.
or whatever they.
Chicago Med and Chicago Law. Yeah, they did all those.
Yeah, I mean, all at the same time. How many CSI shows are there? They could make 10 Mandalorian shows, and people would watch. I mean, I would watch, and I'm thinking this is the most genius move. And people are like, well, then why didn't they announce it at the investor meeting? Because this is much cooler. They didn't have to announce it at the investor meeting because all the investors are going to know. As a matter of fact, they probably already do. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney stock has risen today based on the announcement of the Book of Boba Fett, which, dude. I'm just sitting here.
They got the new storyline for Din that he's now indebted to Bo-Katan to help her retake Mandalore. I mean, and yeah, they didn't announce it, but guess what? You know what? You know what else they didn't talk about or announce at the Disney investor meeting? Avatar 2. Do you think Avatar 2 isn't coming? Of course it's coming. Here's one thing that really stood out to me though, Rob. This one thing really stood out to me is I remember the moment they showed up in that cantina and there's Bo-Katan with Sasha Banks. But in the other episode that had them, they had a third. They had that dude.
Yep.
And it's like, did the dude just go, wait a minute, damn it, I just remembered I left the stove on back at Mandalore. I need to take off and go. I'm like, how come? Where's he? Why is he not there? And then it dawned on me why they were doing it, because it felt like John Favreau wanted to have his own A-Force situation.
Oh, and they did it.
And they did it great.
He stuck to all the Force is female. Yeah, bitches, it is. Watch this. And literally had the four of them coming out, weapons blazing, you know, in that shot. And they're all four there. It was almost was a perfect recreation of that one picture of those Kathleen Kennedy, those girls wearing those Nike shirts that say the Force is female, which, by the way, were not Star Wars shirts. They were Nike shirts.
That was a Nike campaign. Yes,
it's a Nike campaign. But to see that, and I'm sure Favreau's like, I'm going to make all those guys eat their words. I mean, that's what they do in the show. They just think stuff up like, hey, let's turn this on its ear where no one's going to complain because we've already established these characters. They're all badasses, and let's have them come in, you know, weapons hot. I love that.
I think it made everybody happy. I think it made everybody happy.
I laughed. I'm like, because if you know how to do it, I mean, the problem is, you know, if you want to do these things, if you want to have great characters that are played by traditionally people that haven't had a chance, nobody would care if the writing is great and the characters are great. You have to do it in such a way you can make anything cool. You just have to take the time. That means you don't put your agenda first. You put your characters and your story first and make it cool. And that's what they did. They've made Star Wars cool again, and it only took a year and a half from the release of The Rise of Skywalker.
Well, anyway, I was going to say at that point we will take off the spoiler alert. Here we go. So we're back to non-spoilers. all safe, guys. All safe. You can come back. Now, listen, again, I will let you guys know that at 4 o'clock today, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, my wife Ann and I will be doing our weekly Mandalorian open spoiler discussion. Make sure you guys come back and chat. You know, we're going to have more to talk about, and there's so many aspects to cover, but what a way to end the season. And now, unlike last year when Mandalorian ended, and then it was crickets around Disney Plus. Like, oh, that's done now. There's nothing. Okay, now we've got WandaVision coming in a couple of weeks, guys. So now we've got more stuff to look forward to. Anyway, guys, what did you think about the finale of Mandalorian Season 2? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys.